folks, and welcome back to Game Buzz, the weekly podcast from us here at dellspone.com. I'm Matt Gardner, and I'm joined, as per usual, by Jonathan Lester.
Watcher gorgeous.
Watcher. And by Carl Phillips.
Sup.
Sup. And this week, let's kick off. Well, yeah, I want to talk a little bit about WildStar this week, because obviously there've been some layoffs at NCSoft. They cancelled the sort of Halloween and Christmas content, which is, you know, that's
they actually cancelled Christmas.
They cancelled Christmas, man.
Yeah.
Like, Carl, you're our MMO expert.
Hello.
Is Carbine in trouble? Is WildStar in trouble?
I don't know whether trouble's the right word. It's definitely precarious. And as someone who really enjoyed that game, like, you know, I didn't give it a high score for nothing. I really do rate it. It's very good. But there are issues with it. And I think a bit of the problem is that it was kind of marketed as the hardcore MMO. And don't get me wrong, it is pretty hardcore when you get up to the end game content, but it's such a huge leap from the sort of like the casualness as you level up when you get to the end game and you want to try and raid and everything else like that. I think it did kind of turn a few people off. And there are many other reasons, but the population kind of dwindled to the point where servers were kind of like ghost towns. Especially the one I was on the PvP server of Hazak. That's kind of like, yeah, there was just nobody around, and it made PvP an impossibility. Even the group finder stuff wasn't working very well because hardly anybody was on, or it wasn't pairing people, so the queues were just astronomically long. It wasn't a good state of affairs, and they've said that they are addressing it. They cancelled those events to focus on fixing the issues that were there, which I think is the right course of action. You know, fix the game you've got first, then sort out the nice extra Christmas stuff.
And yet, though, here's the thing: the problem with cancelling. I get the logic. Yeah, fix the game you've got before adding new stuff. But on the other hand, one of the main points about charging a subscription for that game is adding regular content. And for me, that absolutely includes seasonal content. We expect that stuff.
Well, this is the thing.
We expect the seasonal content, cool Halloween content. We expect cool Christmas content.
I will get to that. That's the thing. They started off pretty well with WildStar. They were sticking to their monthly updates. I think they got the first 2 out okay. But it was after that all these things started happening, and like, well, you look at it, the thing is, I don't necessarily think that I didn't think Carbine was in trouble up until this point. Now I'm a bit worried. But you look back over the last few months, Jeremy Gaffney, who's the guy who has been in charge of Carbine and WildStar from the get-go, he left about a month or 2 ago. Then Stephen Frost, who was a huge influence in the direction of WildStar and basically getting it to where it is now, he left. He's now working over at Amazon Game Studios. And that was kind of like a bit worrying. But now you see all of this. You see the fact that they've laid off allegedly 60 people out of quite a large studio. And it's more demoralizing than anything. And it's when you're trying to get people to join in the game, like they've done this whole mega server thing to kind of like unite all of the player base so that you've got healthy populations. I've yet to see whether that's actually made a true difference. There have been varying reports all over the place. Even with those upgrades, it's still a very worrying thing. And like you say, like it's cancelling those events it means that all you've got is the same content that's already there. I mean, they are saying that the next big drop of content is going to be very soon, and the sooner the better, frankly. But in terms of making sure that new players join in, it's not just about pleasing the old players, it's making sure that new players get in and enjoy themselves and see a thriving community. I'm not so sure that the WildStar's in the position to do that at the moment. Maybe I'm wrong. Like I said, I haven't really had a chance to play it that much over the last 2-3 weeks because I've had other games to cover, but it is kind of distressing, especially considering, as I say, I really enjoy WildStar and I really do rate it.
That's the thing. Like, you weren't alone in that at all. I mean, I basically said it was kind of my surprise game of the first 6 months of this year, because I'm not an MMO player usually. Like, this WildStar lured me back in, and it was really fun, really fresh. It dealt with a whole bunch of concerns and criticisms that I previously had about MMOs, and it made it feel more kind of responsive, more immediate. Like,
Yeah.
And I love that. But yeah, I cancelled my subscription a couple of months back. One, because I didn't really have much time to play it, such is the life of a games reviewer.
Yeah.
But also because, yeah, I felt like I just kind of lost momentum with it. The subscription didn't help as well. And I think when you call WildStar a hardcore MMO, I mean, this is the thing. Like, I came into it, and I thought it did actually a really good job of introducing me content-wise to the systems and mechanics of the game, and it was very well paced.
Yeah.
But that subscription, when you have things like Guild Wars 2, and this is the thing, you look at the game night we jumped into a few weeks ago on Guild Wars 2, you couldn't move for people. And you know, you look at Star Wars: The Old Republic, which basically transformed itself into a buffet of choice and different ways in which to get into that game. And WildStar's kind of subscription or grind really, really, really hard.
Yeah.
So basically, it's kind of subscription or bust, and that's just not attractive to people, to newcomers.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the important thing to think about as well, talking about the layoffs, it's also kind of a very natural thing in an MMO cycle. Like, you know, you have a huge amount of employees when you are making the game, and then when the game's been released, you know, you trim down. And so part of me is kind of worried in the sense that there's still a lot of work to do with WildStar in terms of getting it back up to speed. But at the same time, it's very natural for its life cycle. You know, everybody was saying the same thing when it happened to BioWare with the Old Republic. They said the same thing about Bethesda when it happened to the Elder Scrolls Online. The only studio that seems to not be able to get away with that, well, the only one that has bucked the trend seems to be Blizzard. They just seem to be hiring everybody. It's ridiculous.
It's because they have all the money.
That's pretty much it.
All of it.
But you're right. In terms of the subscription, it does put a lot of people off, especially when you have these free-to-play options that are getting better. The Old Republic has actually gone on strength to strength ever since free-to-play. Like, it had the subscription buckling, and when it first went free-to-play, it didn't really sit well with a lot of people. But in fairness, it's actually done very well. And so when you look at something like WildStar that has that subscription, even with the fun content, it is really divisive in whether it's value for money. And in your case, I think a large part of it, and it's also the same with me, because you weren't playing it necessarily with friends, as I remember, like it was just you going through the game. You're effectively paying sort of like £9 a month to play a single player game in a way. Yes, you had other people to play with, but that isn't worth it really. If you're doing the end game content, if you're experiencing it with other players, if you feel that there's a proper sense of progression, I think then it's worth it. And on top of that, as John's pointed out, the fact that the new content isn't necessarily coming as fast as it should be also is a big no-no in terms of whether it's value for money or not, which it's just, I feel really sick saying this because, as I say, I really enjoy WildStar, but I don't want to be sort of like a huge downer on it as well, because there are some very positive things about the game, but the problem is there's a lot to sort out, and the mega servers, while a kind of a first step to appease existing fans, isn't going to draw in new punters. And in fact, the latest news is only going to make people perhaps stay away, and which is why I'm hoping that they do the free trial. I think they're going to do for a month trial to try and get people to come in and properly sample it. When they do that, I hope that the game is ready to really show off that it's worthwhile.
Yeah, sure. And I think for me, it's the lack of these seasonal events and this extra content that's bugging me more than the layoffs. Because as you've said, these layoffs are kind of a natural part of the life cycle of an MMO. But I've got nothing wrong with subscriptions. Lots of people hate subscriptions. I'm okay with subscriptions so long as the game proves that it's worth paying that money.
Yeah.
And part of that is absolutely delivering on the content. And what's galling at the moment is I don't like the idea of getting into WildStar and plunking down a subscription effectively while waiting for them to fix their shit.
Yes.
That's not what I want to pay a subscription for. I want to be able to pay a subscription for a great big world that's constantly growing in various ways. It's okay if it's a theme park, so long as it keeps growing and keeps having lots of interesting things added to it. Because the alternative isn't necessarily much better. I mean, going free to play is good, but it does affect both the amount and the direction of the new content that comes out. Because you've got to make that money back somehow, and I'm not going to bang on about the Secret World again. That game. Not only did the updates come a lot less frequently than they originally wanted to, but the updates themselves were designed. You know, one update came out that was basically just a grindy arena challenge that effectively you had to pay more money to. That was completely out of the tone of the game. But
absolutely, and I think the big part of that is that those games weren't designed to be that. Like, the Secret World was built to be a subscription game, and it had to change to be that buy-to-play method with store. The same with the Old Republic. That had to turn itself into a free-to-play game that it is now. And very much like with Guild Wars 2, that was built from the ground up to be buy-to-play with microtransactions. WildStar is built to be a subscription game. If they wanted to change that, and I think they very well could, they have the mechanics there, such as the costume system that could be monetized and the housing system. Those things are perfect for it because it doesn't affect the gameplay, but it would still be have an effect, as you say, a knock-on effect to the development of new content. And like I say, that again, it just worries me. It's just yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, don't get me wrong. I think the Elder Scrolls Online needs to go free to play before WildStar does.
Yeah.
But quite frankly, but I just wonder if a lot of companies, because I like subscriptions. I also like the fact that so long as the game deserves it, I like the fact that they keep out the griefers and they ensure that the community is actually quite nice and is there to play the game and is quite welcoming to new players.
For the most part, I won't say that WildStar's necessarily that friendly at times, but yes.
Okay, but yeah, for the most part, I mean, compared to like when I look at subscription-based say MOBAs, for example, like the free-to-play ones are pretty terrifying. But there's a little subscription, or when there's even just a small price to pay when you get in, like games like Stellar Impact, all the veterans on there took me under their wing, told me how to do everything. It was cool. But I just wonder if more companies could just be a bit more savvy about the amount. I just feel like there's an opportunity to make subscriptions more flexible. I've made this point before, but I'd like to see more companies think about micro subscriptions, like just charging less for subscriptions and perhaps balancing that with some microtransactions or tiered subscriptions. Because how much is the monthly subscription for WildStar right now?
It is $8.99.
You see, I don't think that's too bad. That wouldn't be too bad if there was cool new content to look forward to. If there was big new Christmas-themed raids and stuff.
That's the thing. Like, I mean, World of Warcraft at the moment is $8.99. It's going to be going up to $9.99 when the expansion comes out. And then you look at something like EVE, which is £13-14 a month. Yeah. In the grand scheme of things, it's not too bad, but it's much like with Netflix. Let's say that's £7 a month. You're getting sort of like the same sort of content, and it's going to be kind of like updated every now and then, but it's only worth it if there's stuff there for you to enjoy on a continual basis, or if you want to revisit the old content that's worth revisiting. And with WildStar, you look at stuff like the PvP, that hasn't been very well balanced in the past. They're still trying to get to grips with making sure that it's as fun for all classes, because some perhaps have advantages over others, I will say. But there's just still work there to be done. And in terms of getting to the end game, it's working towards attunement, which is quite the grind, or you pretty much have nothing to do right now. Because, like I say, PvE is not particularly that balanced. And this is the problem. This is why they need to have that middle ground. They need to be adding the more content, adding in the new world story things that they've been promising for absolutely ages, and they say are going to be coming in the next drop. They need to get this in to deliver on the promise that it is an MMO for everyone. Which is, like I say, such a shame, because the road to 50 was hugely enjoyable. When I was first getting into the achievement, it seemed really, really fun, but getting deeper into it, it became more grindy, and it's just I feel goddamn WildStar, so many emotions. I'm in a nervous wreck. I blame Dreamfall Chapters. It just made me an emotional mess.
I think it comes down. I think it really sort of comes down to choice, because I mean, you look at it's what we've been saying on site for not just MMOs, actually, for a whole bunch of things. Like, it worked for Star Wars: The Old Republic eventually. I mean, they had to really optimize that, and when it first went free to play, it was all clunky as hell, and we criticized it heavily because it really wasn't suited to that. As you said, it wasn't developed to be that kind of a game, but BioWare stuck with it and worked it out, and have, you know, it's benefited that game significantly, because players can pick and choose to what degree they want to invest in the Old Republic experience, and the subscription model is still there, and it gets you everything. And so if you don't want to think about stuff, if you don't want to have any avenues blocked off, it's still there, and you can still have it, and it works. But you can totally try before you buy, and then the depth of how you try before you buy is determined entirely by you as a player, which it took a long time to get there, but I think we're going to see that model more and more and more. I really hope we see that model more and more and more, because it puts power and control in the consumer's hands, and that's ultimately what's going to draw people to your game. If you tell them you got to pay £9 a month or grind for just all the time you don't have, and ultimately quite possibly ruin your game experience, players are going to go, well, I don't know, there are games over here that are buy to play, and games over here that I can really like choose options and you know, get into however I want, like in this direction. Nah.
I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see whether Carbine pull out of this tailspin, basically. But at the same time, there is still the community are being very positive about it. You know, they're trying to make the best of, well, I don't know whether to say bad situations, the right term, but they are pulling together. They're trying to show off that, you know, the game is enjoyable, because it is enjoyable. It is so enjoyable. But
I really hope they do. I really hope they find a way to move forwards and progress and get that content back in, because as John said, that's going to be crucial, because if it's not there, you just sort of look at your subscription and go, why am I paying you? But it's like when we critiqued and reviewed the game earlier in the year, like, I absolutely stand by everything we said, because it was an incredibly engrossing experience. And it's a great MMO regardless of whether you're a veteran or a newcomer. I think, like, I genuinely feel that.
Absolutely.
But
I mean, you look at the thing.
I'm rooting for him.
Yeah, absolutely, I am. And you know what? I hope that the people who have been laid off do find work as well. You know, because they've done such a fantastic job on that game. But this is the thing. Talking about theme parks, you know, you don't go to the same theme parks of like 3 times a year. You wait until the next ride's put in and go and experience that, and then have a look at the old content as well. This is why we have the comparisons to theme parks. They need to get those new attractions in. They need to show that they can continually pump out the new content, because otherwise there are others that will gladfully take their money, i.e. Blizzard and other people. So
we're rooting for you, Carbine.
We really are. Come on, show us. Really show us that it's WildStar, we love you.
Yes.
But sort it out.
Right, so to move from games that we've not been playing to games that we have been playing. Carl, you mentioned Dreamfall.
Yes.
And this is kind of like a dream come true in a way.
It really is. I will try and keep this as brief as possible, because, well, the review's up now. You can have a look at it. As a fan of the series, it has absolutely been worth the wait. It's just enjoyable. It really, really is. And go. If you're a fan,
is it worth jumping in now, though? Because this is the thing with episodic models. I'm always a little bit wary. I'm never quite sure. I usually just play it by ear and wing it, whether to invest in something in terms of episodes or wait for the complete experience. Let's say, like, just a few months down the line. Is it worth jumping in right now?
if you haven't played the previous two games, if you haven't played Dreamfall or The Longest Journey, I would say hold off. Simply because there is just so much plot points, or so many plot points that are kind of referenced that new players won't necessarily get. Like they'll get to the bit with Keon and be like, oh, this is just a really depressed guy who, yeah, why am I sort of like getting emotionally attached to him? Why should I care? Whereas the bit with Zoe is really well realized, and the plot point they go about her is actually, it fits in really well for newcomers. But I still think you'll enjoy it, and as we've seen with the Secret World, like Tornquist and Chave know how to like spin a narrative yarn. They know how to do it really, really well, and they know how to build up a world as well and fill it with really interesting stuff to go and find. But you're not going to necessarily appreciate it as much as someone who has played the games, and in that respect, it probably is worthwhile just holding off for now, or at least until they sort out the story recap they did say that they were going to get in with the game. At least that's my opinion. Again, it's all there in the review.
Yeah, I mean, I'm holding off jumping in, one, time, two, because I need actually more time. Because I read that and I thought, well, I'm gonna have to play through the other two, because it's been years since I played through the two previous games.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I think as well, just for people like me who played those games years ago, loved them, but maybe have forgotten a few of the finer details, the recap's going to be really helpful.
Absolutely. I mean, like you're saying, time is very important. I mean, you look at the Telltale games, like they take about a couple of hours to really get through. This you can get through in a couple of hours, but as soon as you get into Europolis, there's just so much to go and explore and look around and chat to people that you kind of do spend ages just going about it. And so, like I say, it took me 5 hours to get through in the end.
That's something that, like, the Dreamfall, that's something like the two previous games did wonderfully. It's that feeling of, just being in a world and just sort of looking at it, just being there, and you don't. It's something actually that I think a lot of games fail to do, especially super expansive ones that don't necessarily have the time to go into like loads of detail. Although I have to say, Alien Isolation did this really, really well. It was a really nice place to just sort of, well, it wasn't a nice place to be in, but it was an incredibly rich, detailed environment to be in. And I think like the previous games like the two previous games in the series have been games in which you can just sort of soak in like a bath, right?
Yeah.
And so it does extend the playtime, because you don't want to rush through it. You want to like soak up as much as you possibly.
Absolutely. I mean, it's something that I'm sure John will agree with the Secret World. That did exactly the same thing, but on the scale of a MMO. Like, there's just so many little things to go and find that are linked to what you're doing or the missions that you're actually like getting through. But
I've really got to play that game.
Really should.
So, tell you what, I read that review, and I've actually never played the Dreamfall Chapters games. I know of them by reputation, and I've spent a while wikiing them over the years, because people have told me that they're excellent, but I just haven't had the time to get into them.
Yeah.
But I really like the fact that this seems to be a narrative-driven adventure game that actually lets you explore. Because I got to tell you, over these last few years, I've enjoyed The Walking Dead, and I've enjoyed The Wolf Among Us, and I've enjoyed things like that. But they've never let me really get into the world so much as continually show it to me, and then let me make the occasional choice. And this seems to have loads of interruptible dialogue and lots of interesting narrative choices to make. But I love the idea of actually just exploring a place. I love exploring. It's one of my favourite things to do in games. And this looks great. It looks really neat. And I'm a sucker for sort of new, colourful, slightly dystopian sci-fi as well.
Oh god, yeah, it's very Blade Runner, I think.
Yeah, I'm an absolute sucker for that stuff. Absolutely love it. So I don't know. The thing is, I don't know if I think I might just have to bite the bullet, get on GOG or something, and get the original game.
Oh, do it.
Oh, absolutely worth it.
Get through them. So when I see a deal, I will probably indulge. But I got to tell you, it looks great.
Yes,
and it seems
absolutely.
exactly the sort of thing you want in the Christmas season when, like, you got all the big AAAs coming out saying, like, you know, blasting you with graphics and explosions and stuff. Actually, kind of, you want a really nice little story to get stuck into in the start of something, like, really interesting, maybe using your brain a little bit. I like that.
It's great. It's the fact that it lets you do it at your own pace as well. Like, you're not rushed, especially when it comes to plot points. You don't have that sort of like line timer going down as you're trying to decide things. Go, oh crap, I need to pick one quickly. It really makes you think about your choices. But yeah, I think if anything, if this encourages more people to go and play the first two games, brilliant. Although it'll be funny to hear you bitch and moan about the rubber ducky puzzle at the beginning of freaking Longest Journey.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, it's infamous. It's brilliant, but it's such a great story, and I really hope that people get into it, because I think it is worth it. But like I say, just needs to get that recap out a bit more quickly, and then maybe.
Is there a special edition that includes the original games?
No, actually. Why haven't they done that?
I've got no idea.
GOG should do a deal.
Do Red Thread have the rights to the previous games?
They don't necessarily have. They've got the rights to continue the series, but they're not responsible for selling it. It's Funcom.
Maybe that's it.
But I mean, the thing is, they come up in deals all the time. If you look on GOG and even on Steam, like, you can get both of them for £7 or even less, usually in sort of like a double pack.
Yeah, sometimes GOG will run one. The ones where they're both like under $2 each or something. I mean, I picked them up like a couple of years ago, but I haven't had the time.
It's just
so yeah, I'm not coming in next week. I'll be taking next week off, so I could just play.
It's fair. That's absolutely fair.
I think we all should, really. I think everyone should. Just shut the economy down.
Shut the economy down just for a week.
We're not going to miss it.
Nah, and just have yourself a little bit of Dreamfall.
I mean, I don't know how the economy works, so I don't know. But
witchcraft, frankly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's Dreamfall Chapters for you.
That's Dreamfall. I've been playing a bit of The Evil Within. The review should be live by the time you're listening to this. And I don't know, like, it's you know how greatest hits albums are stuffed with awesomeness, but they're never, I don't know, sometimes they just don't necessarily have kind of, the heart of an actual proper album.
Yes.
Sometimes they're awesome. Sometimes it's, I don't know. The Evil Within's a bit like that. It's kind of Shinji Mikami's greatest hits classics. And in that respect, like, it's really good. It's going to be great for nostalgic people who love Resi 4 especially. It's basically a spiritual successor to Resident Evil 4 and shows how the Resident Evil series has just abandoned.
Hold up. You say it's the spiritual successor to Resi 4. So is it actually scary? Because the thing about Resi 4 is that it was very tense and it had a few great effective jump moments, but much of that game was just spent like killing disgusting things or running headlong into disgusting things, as opposed to actually being genuinely,
Alien
scary.
Isolation has ruined this game for me. And this is the thing, because it's so rooted in classic survival horror-esque like motifs and techniques. This is the thing, like Resi 4 doesn't scare me.
Interesting. And you've got a really low tolerance.
And I've got quite a low tolerance.
So I remember, like, Alien, I'll tell you one thing about Alien Isolation. I only played 4 hours of the sort of pre-release build, I guess the gold build, but it did actually terrify me, even though I was in a room with other journos. So, I mean, damn, that's got to be worth picking up. Serious, I really can't wait for
and that's the thing.
To get into that. But the Evil Within, it looks, I've seen the adverts, I've seen gameplay for it. It looks gross and it looks kind of vile, and it seems to deliver on the gore and gross out. But does it deliver that creeping terror now we're so close to Halloween?
No. I mean, I think it's creepy and it's atmospheric, and there are so many moments, where you look one way and then you look back and the creepy thing's there.
Scary as PT?
No. But the thing is, PT. I generally find first-person horror to be a lot scarier than third-person horror, because there's a thing in the way of the horror in third.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
It's like in third person, you're like driving a character, you're like operating a character rather than actually having the horror subjected on you.
So it's kind of there are sort of jump scares here and there. There are like clever little camera things here and there. It does a nice job of sort of mechanical fear, what I want to call mechanical fear in terms of games where
like scary robots.
No, in terms of
like
there's something that can kill
like
you instantly, and it's going to pop up here and there, and you just got to, when it appears, you just got to run away. But it's not. It's basically it's kind of like a nostalgic ghost train, or like a nostalgic haunted house, rather than something that pushes the horror genre in any kind of way. It's something for. It's really something for Resident Evil 4 fans. It's very good, and it feels really nice to play, and it's quite effective in terms of atmosphere and tone. But it's not pants ruiningly terrifying like Alien's been. And it might be a little bit unfair to compare those two games, but the thing is, I think one is a backwards looking greatest hits, and one is progressive first person shit yourself terror.
What platform are you playing it on?
PS4.
That's a shame, because you see, my absolute favourite thing about The Evil Within is the fact that it has a console on PC, and you can type in console commands and cheats. Where have those gone?
Yes.
Well, I'll tell you where those have gone. They've been taken out and flogged back to us as DLC. That's where they've gone. But in an amazing move, Bethesda and I guess Tango said, no, we are going to let you dick around with the settings. You want to put God mode on? That's fine. You want to put crazy, silly cheats on? They're going to break the game? Yeah, go for it. It's your console. It's your game. Type them in. See what happens. That's great. That needs to come back.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I remember what was I playing the other day? I was playing Jedi Outcast the other day. And I was turned on no clip just for a laugh.
Obviously.
It's brilliant.
Oh, no clip. I miss no clip. And
I'm right. Yeah.
Yeah, no clip and plus M look. Yeah. To be like, whoa, I can move the mouse.
There's an amazing one. There's an amazing one in the Jedi Knight games where it turns the lightsaber into an actual lightsaber. So if you touch anyone with a lightsaber, their arm will fall off. You don't have to do an attack move. It'll just they'll just suddenly crumble into bits.
Yeah.
I love it. Just more consoles. More consoles and games.
More debug consoles, not actual consoles. We can't afford that.
Although debug consoles on consoles.
Oh God, no! Yeah, that's not even the right term. God. Developer console. No. No. Wait, that's not. No, we can't afford those.
Yeah, I mean GTA sort of had that with its mobile phone. I can't remember what they called it, but you could sort of access cheats on that.
Yeah.
And dial in stuff. I mean, yeah, I'd like to see more things like that actually being put in the game. Sure, disable the achievements if you want. But stop selling us this stuff back to us and do like The Evil Within and just let us fuck about with our game and break it if we want to. It's our game.
Well, the thing is, actually, on consoles, like you could easily do something like GoldenEye, make them unlockables through skill, and then in a sub-option menu.
There's so many things they can make unlockable through skill. You know, like extra outfits, extra scenarios, extra weapons, skins. You know, all of those things that we used to unlock by completing the game multiple times or getting
Wobbly heads
on a great game.
Wobbly
heads, exactly. Big head mode, all of those things we used to be able to unlock, and now we sort of end up paying about $5.99 for post-launch. But that's a whole different.
that's a real can of worms. That could.
I know, but look, The Evil Within. I mean, see, so it's good. It's not scary, but it's good.
It is good. It is good, and it generates that because of the scarcity of ammo. It generates that sort of mechanical fear of not having or having really, really, really limited tools to do the job that you need to do. But it handles like Resident Evil 4 to previous games. With its sort of actiony handling was a lot better, and it feels a lot like that.
I thought
okay, so it's not.
When I had gone with it felt kind of Dead Spacey, but not.
Yeah,
kind of like so like a modern day Dead Space.
So it doesn't handle like Vanquish then.
No.
Well, that's arguably a good thing, seeing as it's trying to be a horror game, I suppose.
But yeah, it's more sort of creepy and grotesque and atmospheric than sort of. I didn't find it to be outright terrifying.
So more Dead Space 2 than Dead Space.
So
Yeah.
look though, if you've got a certain amount of money and you want to buy a horror game, should you buy Alien or should you buy The Evil Within? Oh, let's just call it Resident Evil for God's sake.
Evil Within.
The Evil Within. It's Resident Within.
It depends, and this is a cop-out answer, I know. Actually, no. Do you know what? I'd lean towards Alien because I think it's more progressive. I think it's more terrifying. I think if you want to be scared, that's the game that's going to scare you. But it depends what you're looking for in a horror game. Do you want a classic Mikami game? Because if you do, this one's really good. It's really good for you. If you like Resident Evil 4 and you wanted to see a spiritual successor to that Resident Evil series did not give you, this is it. This is absolutely it. But it's a game rooted in those kind of past mechanics. It's not one that kicks on in any particularly meaningful way. But if you liked games like Amnesia, for example, games like Outlast, if you like first-person immersive horror experiences, then Alien is just...
Yeah,
I'm actually peeing myself a little bit thinking about it. Can we talk about something else?
I know what you mean, man.
Like something colourful and...
No, I want to talk about Alien. I mean, seriously, even after playing just 4 hours of it, that was a game that I thought a room was safe because it had a plot point in it. And I went in there and started doing the plot point. I turned around, the fucking alien was there and it ate me. And then I went in there next time and it wasn't. I turned around, I was like, what? Where is it? Where the hell is it?
It's a safe. That's just a lie.
Yeah, there's no save point.
Save point.
And I like the fact that it's like, oh, so you want to save your game? Well, you're going to have to go and explore and find a place to save it, but you might get eaten on the way. Maybe the alien might be there, or a terrifying android will stove your face in, or attract the alien. Oh man, it's just, yeah, I really, that's going to be one of my Christmas purchases for sure. Maybe after Bayonetta, then Alien.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you got a Wii U, go buy Bayonetta 2.
Obviously.
Just do it. Like, justify Nintendo resurrecting it. Because it deserves your money and your time.
Yes, it does.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. John, you've been playing a little bit of Sunset Overdrive.
I've been playing. As usual, I've been sort of breaking myself dedicated on my weekends and sort of general sleep time towards reviewing a whole bunch of stuff. Sunset Overdrive, yes, I have been playing it. Our review will be going live next week. Yeah. that's that. I mean, I am under an NDA. So that's about all I can say about Sunset Overdrive.
Sure looks colourful and...
It is.
Wacky.
It is.
Is it rad?
Oh, it's so rad.
What
I think I will say about it is it's very punk rock. It's very sort of, not only does it have a full original soundtrack that basically sounds like a mediocre Offspring and I guess Bad Religion cover band.
So every time you
like all the time, but singing hilarious Sunset Overdrive theme lyrics. The whole game is kind of, oh, can I say this? I don't know. I suppose I can. I mean, you'll see it in the videos, and you can see this in the videos that Insomniac have put out. It's kind of almost quite an angry little game. It's them saying, we weren't allowed to make the game you wanted to make with Fuse. So now we're going to do a game in which you will murder a focus group, for example.
Brilliant.
That is the exact thing, because I spoke to their community manager a few months back, and he was just like, basically, one company told us what to do, and Microsoft are actually just letting us do exactly what we want. And I was like, so is this kind of your riposte? Is this kind of like a big a big fuck you to EA? Yeah, basically. It looks like that's what it is.
I can't give any sort of value judgment, but descriptively, I mean, yeah, it's, as you know, it's got really cool traversal. It's got loads of really cool guns. It's very much an action shooty platformer rather than a sandbox, as I've said in the previews and as we've said all along. It's not like a sandbox game. It's more like Jet Set Radio in that regard. It's all about the traversal and having fun with that rather than messing around with loads of systems, if you know what I mean. But yeah, it's a game that you'll find out whether or not it's good next week. He said, stopping himself short of but yeah, it's not the only game I've been reviewing, of course. Right now, well, this week, Borderlands the pre-sequel, too long didn't read. It's fun if you like Borderlands. Also, zero-G combat is just freaking. Sorry, low grav combat is freaking awesome.
Butt slam.
It's butt slam. It's actually really good. As far as it goes, it's so much fun that I can forgive all of its many serious systemic flaws while I'm playing it, and that's rather the point. Disney Fantasia, I gave out the lowest score on the internet for officially, but I got to tell you, I mean, it's a cool idea, but basically, it's playing it feels like you're guiding a light aircraft into land in your living room.
Yeah, that's
Semaphore.
absolutely. I mean, when I saw it at Gamescom a few years back, like it looked fantastic, and I loved the idea behind it, but I didn't get hands-on with it. They wouldn't let me go anywhere near the Kinect sensor.
I think that's the point, because in all games like this, like the physical action itself ought to be kind of empowering and rewarding. You know, when you're on Guitar Hero, you feel like a rock god because you actually got a guitar in your hands, or a microphone, or a drum kit. Kinect games, like I don't know if you play Child of Eden on Kinect, but you're standing there in a sort of rock pose, blasting out like laser beams out of your hands. I mean, that's awesome. And in this game, you feel like you're drunkenly trying to hail a taxi on the other side of the road. You're literally standing still, just waving your arms around. It doesn't feel like you're conducting. It should feel like you're conducting, but it feels like you're just reacting and waggling your hands about. For me, that was a deal breaker for what is otherwise a very capable game. But as I say, I gave it a 6, and pretty much everyone else gave it an 8 or a 9. So I thought perhaps that Harmonix missed the point, but perhaps I missed the point. So the moral of the story is try the demo. And agree with me, because I'm totally right on this one, and because I am, but that's just my opinion, man. And then Shadow Warrior is still sweet
and wangful.
It's so wangful, and it's just really great. It's a proper old school shooter, and I like it more now actually on consoles than I did on PC, because I really liked it on PC and recommended it, but I was comparing it like directly to all my favorite old school games and saying, oh, these upgrade systems are completely unnecessary. The story's completely unnecessary. All these extra moves and magical skills are diluting this classic experience that I still play. You know, from Quake to Doom to even the Serious Sam games. But now on a console, I'm there thinking, actually, no, maybe I came down a bit too heavily on those, because the weapon upgrade system is still a terrible idea. Like nerfing all the guns and then selling secondary fire modes back to you is just a horrendous idea. But otherwise, actually, all of its unique features and upgrade systems are actually really fun and give it its own unique identity. So either way, go play the damn thing. It's just really good. It's really, really satisfying.
I think that's actually the Deals Point top tip of the week. Just make sure your Christmas is full of wang.
Pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Can't argue with that.
Make sure there's some wang in your stocking.
Yeah, put some wang in your stocking.
Yes.
And I think that's actually a good note to end on this week. I think
it's better than previous weeks, so I'll give you that.
Fill your face with wang.
Wait.
I think that's.
We should probably end this now before we get too weird.
Right. Stuff your face with wang.
End it now.
That's what we're all saying here. That's what we're doing.
Exactly. Yeah. A wang in the hand is worth 2 in the stocking.
It's worth 2 in the bush. You don't want any wangs in the bush.
Okay, I'm done.
Too much?
Too much wang.
Too much wang. Thank you so much for listening, peeps. Yeah, make sure you're tuning into the site Monday morning, because Sunset Overdrive review will be going live. So yeah, you're gonna want to check that out. And we'll have lots more coverage, because there's loads of games coming out over the next few weeks. So yeah. Make sure you're hitting the site up and the YouTube channel. Hit subscribe. Tell your friends. We'll be back next Saturday, same time as usual, with another Game Buzz. But until then, cheerio. Have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye.